The SNC Lavalin Scandal seems to be escalating quite quickly. What up everyone, in this next video I want to dive right into the SNC Lavalin Scandal, which has been plaguing the federal government here in Canada. Now, this is a scandal that broke in I believe it was in the Globe and Mail in February. It was February 7th, 2019. And this is a scandal over an alleged effort by high-ranking Liberals in Justin Trudeau's Prime Minister's office, trying to encourage then Attorney General and Justice Minister Jody Reybold to offer some kind of deal or go easy on the firm. Now, this is I believe a Montreal, or at least a Quebec-based firm, engineering firm, and the charges of fraud and corruption date between 2001 and 2011. They cover payments of $48 million to the Libyan government. Now, due to these charges, if the charges were successful, if convicted, the company would lose their ability to bid on international projects, which would definitely have an impact on the company. I've heard varying accounts of what that could mean for jobs, job loss. I've heard all over everything from a risk of 9,000 jobs to no job risk to anything in between. So it's really a sea of confusing information. But regardless, this has brought a shift that could very well bring down the Liberals come the October election later this year. So what's gone down? The scandal got a very big wrinkle when Jody Reybold appeared to be shuffled to a new position. Now, this came after, I believe, Scott Bryson, a high-ranking, long-time Liberal, retired, or at least left politics. So his position needed to be refilled, so there was a cabinet shuffle. Reybold was moved from Attorney General and Justice to Veteran Affairs. Now, this isn't a knock on Veteran Affairs. It's an important portfolio. We all can agree it's important work, needs to be done. Veterans need to be taken care of. We all agree. But to go from Justice to Veteran Affairs, it is a demotion. We need to be realistic here. Eventually, she would resign from cabinet. Now, the resignations seem to keep flowing. Justin Trudeau's principal secretary, Gerald Butts, would resign from his post. Later, another cabinet minister, Jane Philpott, she resigned from cabinet. And later, the clerk of the Privy Council, Michael Wernick, he retired. All around this time. Now, the Ethics Commissioner as well as the Justice Committee is investigating. There have been Reybold and Gerald Butts have been called to give evidence in the investigations. These investigations are underway. Of course, the opposition is calling for Trudeau to resign over this. So all in all, it's really thrown federal politics upside down. Now, the resignations and other revelations have been going on pretty much since February. Reybold announced that she had a recording of a conversation, I believe it was with Wernick. I listened to it, and you can tell that there was at least, I don't want to say pressure, but there was talk about the engineering firm and opportunities of how the situation could be handled. Now, in this recording, which I'm going to try to find, and if I can find it, it will definitely be linked in the description. In the recording, she does hint that she feels that she's handling it, Reybold, who I mean by she, is handling it in the best way she can. That she's handling the SNC Lavalin case as it should be. Now, this, of course, now has caused to come to what's happened today, and today as in April 2nd, where Justin Trudeau has announced that after speaking with various caucus presidents, that he's come to the conclusion where both Philpott and Reybold have to be removed from caucus. This also means that they will both not be the Liberal candidates in the upcoming election. Trudeau, and I have a video of the the press conference where he announces this. It's bilingual, no subtitles. So if you want to see that, that'll be linked in the description as well. Trudeau touched on various topics. He brought up the recording, said that is highly inappropriate and trust was broken. And this led to the fact trust was broken, at least on Reybold, and he felt Philpott also had to go. Now, this scandal has caused the Liberals to be affected in the polls. The Conservatives under Andrew Scheer are now seem to be polling higher, and if an election were called today, they may very well win. Now, if you ask me, I think this is in October, this is Scheer's election to lose if things keep going as they're going now. Anything can happen come October, realistically. Anything can happen that could tank the Conservatives. The Liberals could tank further, or something could happen. The NDP could have a meteoric rise in support, and they could shoot up to first place. Miracles could happen. It could be the Green Party or Maxime Bernier's People's Party of Canada could reap the benefits. Who knows? Elections can be quite unpredictable at times. But I still feel that Andrew Scheer and the Conservatives are, if they play their cards right, they can only gain. Now, by only gain, that could mean they reduce Trudeau to a minority government, or they form either a majority or a minority government themselves. I think it very much is his election to lose at this point. And just say if Trudeau wins, whether minority or majority government, which, from Canada, all that means is the party that wins the election, if it's a minority government, they don't have the majority of seats in the House of Commons. If it's a majority, they have the majority of the seats and can essentially punch through any legislation they want because they have a majority. Now, going back to Trudeau, if he wins, it's essentially Trudeau. If Trudeau wins, it's essentially Scheer not being able to convince the people that the Conservatives are a better option. It's not really Trudeau winning, it's Scheer not being able to convince people that they should vote for him. Now, the optics of this scandal look horrendous. Trudeau has tried to portray himself as a feminist. He has effectively now kicked out 2 women out of essentially the Liberal Party. That's not going to look very well. It's not going to look very well on him at all. And this is because he has been very vocal about considering himself a feminist. If he would have not played that card, not tried to portray himself in such a way, this might not be such a problem. But because he himself put that out there, his critics would be foolish not to try to exploit that. But in watching the conference where Trudeau was announcing that these two women were effectively kicked out of the Liberal Party, there were several things that went through my mind that were deeply, deeply concerning. First is, I feel there was a complete lack of self-awareness on how we got here in the first place. It seemed to me like the Liberals, or at least Trudeau, completely forgot of how we ended up in this situation. it left me scratching my head. He primarily talked about several things, but he made a point of addressing the fact that Wilson Reybold made these secret recordings, or a secret recording. I don't know if there's any more. I imagine if there's more, she could release them to the media, but all I know is of the one. His point was that when she was Justice Minister and Attorney General, that's a very high-ranking position in the government, and for her to record conversations is highly, highly inappropriate. Now, I can understand where he's coming from there. I'm sure confidentiality has a huge role to play. Now, this is going to be a big however. Canada does have laws, including first-party consent. Now, I don't know if... I'm not a lawyer. I should say that. I don't know if that could save Wilson Reybold in this case. But if she felt the need to have to record some of these conversations she was having with high-ranking members in Trudeau's office, that makes me wonder what it was going on. If she felt the need to have to do that, what was actually going on behind the scenes? Having been not there, I don't know. But it should raise questions. And these are questions that I don't think is actually being asked. I don't feel it's being taken into account. And I find it disturbing. Now, when this scandal broke, and this leads into other things I was thinking about during this speech, his speech during the announcement yesterday, I was reminded of when Trudeau came to my riding, the Yellowhead riding, when there was a by-election. I want to say 2014, 2015, something like that. Harper was still Prime Minister, whenever that was. He came campaigning. I got to meet him and hear him speak. I interviewed him for the newspaper I worked for at the time. And I was just reminded how candidate Trudeau, or opposition Trudeau, and Prime Minister Trudeau seem to be two different people. Completely different people. I'm going to give you a very good example. When I met him and I interviewed him, he talked about trying to be a Prime Minister for all Canadians. That's how he was trying to position himself. He would say things like Stephen Harper, the then Prime Minister under the Conservative government, seemed to favor the Western provinces, particularly Alberta, and drew an X on Eastern Canada. He then looked at the then leader of the NDP, Thomas Mulcair, as saying he drew an X on the West and would do everything for the East. Now he comes into office, and because I believe his riding's Papineau in Quebec. Now a Quebec company seems to be in trouble, where potentially there could be job loss, depending on what source you believe. There could be job loss, there may not be. He seems to be willing to bend over backwards to try to save this company and preserve jobs, when Alberta's oil industry is going through trouble. I've heard varying numbers for job loss that could be as high as 100,000. Seems to be nothing to help support workers there. There seems to be not a lot to help Ontario auto workers. But the minute it's a Quebec company, there's effort being made, or at least public effort, highly publicized effort, to try to help the Quebec company. That is part of what I feel is rubbing a lot of people the wrong way on this scandal. They hear that and they see what's hurting in their jurisdiction and how there's no attempted help there, but there's help. He's trying to help them here. That's one thing that drove me nuts as I was listening to this. Now, as I said, the election is still a long time away. Anything can happen. politicians take missteps all the time. But this is definitely a scandal that Trudeau needs to take seriously, and the damage control he's currently doing ain't doing anything for him. If he keeps going this way, I wouldn't be surprised if he loses and is very publicly replaced as leader. Now, maybe it won't happen, but this is honestly how I feel about it. And personally, although I just said earlier that Scheer is in the best position and it's his to lose, I don't know if he can do it. Scheer, I find, comes off as very vanilla, very much doesn't have a personality, and to go up against Trudeau, who at least has some charisma and does have some personality, I don't know if he could do it. Jagmeet seems almost blander than Scheer to me, and I don't know. I honestly can't see Scheer spent Jagmeet Singh of the NDP's leader. I can't see him, since he spent the entire year, or practically his entire leadership so far, without having a seat in the House of Commons. We have no idea how he's going to act as leader. So he seems even blander than Scheer. The only leader I could think of that has any kind of personality that could take on Trudeau is Maxime Bernier of the People's Party, and I don't know if he can. I don't know if enough people would be willing to look at a brand new party that I'm sure is going to be painted as intolerant and racist by people who don't even know what those terms mean anymore. So it's going to make an interesting election. And I'm sure there's going to be much more on this story. I'm sure we haven't heard the last of it. I want to thank you for watching this video. If you like what you saw, please like it. If you don't, well, there's the thumbs down. If you agree, disagree, or just want to continue the conversation, please leave a comment down below. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Facebook, Minds, and Twitter. Links will be down below in the description. Thank you again. Have yourself a good day. Until next time.